This is my app called the Trash Can Game, which I designed to teach students about order of operations. This is the loading screen, which would first appear when you open the app, and when it finishes loading, you would get the login screen. Here you could type in a player's name and press the plus sign to add a new player. You could also tap on an existing player's name to use that player profile, or you could press the minus sign to delete a player. Once you've selected a player, you'll get to the home screen. Here you'll have the option to practice, play, or look at achievements, as well as you may have noticed in the left-hand corner, there's a question mark that's appeared, and on the question mark, you could tap on that to get a help section. In the help section, there are two different options. You can look at order of operations notes for information about how to solve using BEDMAS, as well as you could tap on the how to play section, which would show you general information about how to play the game. I'm now going to tap on the order of operations. That's going to bring me to the notes about BEDMAS. Here it gives me information about what each of the letters stands for in BEDMAS. If I tap on next, it will bring up the rules for using order of operations. And if I tap now, if you notice on the bottom right hand corner, there's the home button. It looks like a little house. If I tap on that, it will take me back to the home screen. Here I can now tap on that question mark again, and it takes me to the help screen. I'm now going to show you the how to play section. If I tap on how to play, it will bring up the rules for the game and with screenshots that outline each of the steps of the game. I'm not going to go through this right now as we will go through the game shortly. But just if you click on next, it will bring you through each of the screens of the game and show you some of the information of how to play the game. I'm now going to tap on the home button and I get back to the home screen. If I now tap on the achievements button, it's going to bring up information about awards that can be earned while you play the game. This would be for things like beating a certain number of players or getting a high score or winning other awards in the game. And the awards are things like an extra trash can, BEDMAS hints, a bonus roll, or an instant solution. And I'll explain these a little bit more when we get to the game. If you tap now on the home button, I get back to the home screen. I'm now going to look at the practice section. The practice section allows me to have 4 different methods for practicing BEDMAS and using order of operations. And this is really important. It's the content section of the app. Before I get to playing the game, I need to understand how order of operations works, and this is some of the ways that I could learn that. And there's different methods depending on how the student prefers to learn. The first thing I'm going to look at is the video tutorial. So I'm going to tap on the video tutorial button now, and it will get to a page that has an order of operations question. When I tap the screen again, it's going to load a video that explains how to use order of operations to solve a problem, so I'll show you an example of that now. When solving an order of operations question, we use BEDMAS to help us remember the order to apply operations to the question. BEDMAS stands for brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So we're going to look at this problem and see if those things appear and complete them in the same order of the word. The first letter in BEDMAS is B. So that stands for brackets. In this question, we do have something inside brackets, so we're going to start by solving that. Once we solve it, we need to recopy the rest of the question, and so we can continue on to the next letter. The next letter in BEDMAS is E, which stands for exponents. There is exponents in this question, so we're going to change the exponents to their answer and then continue to solve. Don't forget to recopy out the question again. The next letter is D for division. We're going to take the dividing part of the question and put the correct answer directly underneath. There is no multiplying in this question, so we can skip that letter and go on to the A, which stands for addition. The final step in this question will be to add 7 plus 2, which gives us 9 and our final answer. Again, don't forget to put an equal sign in front of every single line when you're making your solution. Now if I would tap on the next button, I could have other videos with additional questions to practice, but I won't look at that right now. If I just tap on the home button again, I'm going to get back to that home screen and I'll tap on practice. Now let's look at the second option for students, which is the audio instructions. If I tap on the audio instructions button, I get a question with order of operations, and if you notice to the right of the question there's an audio button. I'm going to press on that audio button and it's going to give me the audio instructions without the video. In the left-hand corner below, you might also notice that there's this pen and eraser logo. This is actually a whiteboard screen, so students can actually use their finger or a stylus to solve the question while they're listening to the audio and try to get the correct solution. And if they make a mistake along the way, they can use the eraser button to erase what they've written and then just tap back on the pencil or pen button that would allow them to continue writing. So I'm going to show you an example of what the audio would look like if they tap on that button right now. First, solve what is inside the brackets. Write that answer without brackets directly underneath and recopy the rest of the question. Next, solve the multiplying, since M comes before S in BEDMAS. Write that answer directly underneath and recopy the rest of the question. Last, solve the subtracting to get your final answer and write it below. Don't forget to write equals in front of every line. And here's an example of what the students' writing might look like on the screen, so they could solve the question below. And then again, they could press the next button to get additional audio questions, and they could keep practicing using the audio if this is the preferred method that they want to use. I'm now going to tap back on the home button, which will take me back to the home screen. If I go back into practice, the third method for the students to practice is using visual hints. If I tap on visual hints, I'm going to get a question, and you'll notice here that the student can write below, which I've already done, but the neat part of this is that the highlighting, which you see in yellow, will come up around the part of the question that the student needs to solve. So for example, this beginning section, the first thing they need to do was multiply to get 6. And so it's highlighted, and then the highlighting would keep moving with the questions. So next thing that would be highlighted is 15 minus 6 to give you the 9, and then the final step would be the 9 plus 8 to get 17. So it actually move along the question as they're working through. Again, they have the pen and the eraser to use on the whiteboard, and again, they can click on the next button, and if they tap there, they would get more solutions or more questions that would allow them to have visual hints to practice. If I tap now back on the home button and one more time to practice, I'm going to get that last section which says on my own. May make sense to you, which obviously these are the questions that they would just practice without any kind of visual, audio, or video hint. It would just be straight BEDMAS questions. Again, they have the whiteboard to work with the pen and the eraser, and they can keep pressing on next, and when they tap on next, they'll get different questions to try outside of the game so that they could just practice using BEDMAS and order of operations before they go into playing the game. So I think that sums up the practice section. I'm going to press on the home button here and we'll get back to the home screen. We're now going to look at playing the game. So at this point, when the student has had a chance to practice and use the notes about order of operations, they may be ready to actually play the game. So we'll tap on that. When we press play, you're going to see we'll have two options. They can either start a new game or they can look at their current game. So in this case, there are two current games that are listed, which have different players that are playing against, as well as the time that they last played. They can click on one of those games, and when they tap on that, it would bring up the existing game that they could keep playing, or they could start a new game. In this case, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tap on Start a New Game, and it will bring up three options: Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3. Level 1 is like a beginner level that has only adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Level 2 includes brackets with the operations, and Level 3 has exponents. This is so that students can challenge themselves or can start working at the level where they're at. Also may depend on what grade they're in or what they're comfortable with, but they can work at different levels depending on where they're at with order of operations. For right now, I'm going to tap on Level 1 to show you part of the game. So when I do that, I'm going to have three options now for different amounts of die. Again, this is just a way of changing the level of difficulty of the game. With one die, they would only have up to 6 as the highest number as part of their order of operations, but when we get to 3 die, they could possibly have up to the number 18. So if you're multiplying by 18 or squaring with 18, you could get to a pretty large number pretty quickly. So it really would depend on where they're at. Again, for right now, I'm just going to choose one die to show you how this would work. So if I tap on that, I'm now going to have the last part of the selection, which will let me either choose to tap on a random opponent, which it will match me with a player at my similar skill level based on my previous play, or it would find, you could tap on find friends, and you can find friends from your contact list, or maybe this would connect to Facebook, so you could find contacts on your Facebook friends list that you could play against for people that you know. For right now, I'm going to tap on random opponent. It will now start the game, so here it might be loading or finding the player, but once it finds the player, it will load into the beginning of the game. And so now we get this screen. You'll notice that on the top there's a button that says roll. In the middle of the screen you have boxes with order of operations question not filled in, so a plus, multiplying, and a subtracting. And then at the bottom you have a trash can that also has a space for a number. How it's going to work is I'm going to tap on a roll, and it would animate the roll, but obviously we won't be doing that now. And when we get the number of the die, we can actually take our finger and drag that die into one of those 5 places. So this is where the strategy portion of the game really comes into play, because the students will have to think about where they want to put the number that appears with the roll, and they'll also have to think about what number they'd want to put eventually in the trash can. And there's some strategy to this, but also some luck and chance. So it really just depends on what numbers appear. So let's press roll now and see what number we get. So here the dice is giving us a 4. So now we can take our finger and hold the dice of 4 and drag it to one of the spots, and the number 4 is going to appear in the spot that we choose. And so I'm just going to go ahead and drag that number in here into the front of the multiplying. You see how it now appears as the number 4, and this is now locked in. I can't change that response, but I can now tap on a roll to start again, and it would animate that roll. And now I'm getting a 1. And here's again where the strategy comes into play, because obviously if I'm thinking about getting a largest answer possible, I want to drag this 1 into a spot that's going to affect me least, so I'm probably going to drag this now to the subtracting so I don't have to have much subtracting off my answer. When I do that, I'm going to get the roll button up again, but now maybe I'm stuck or I want to think of some of the options I have. So if I tap on the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there's a star kind of metal looking icon. If I tap on that icon, it's actually going to bring up a kind of toolbox of the achievements that I've got throughout the game and from playing the game. And you'll see again there's some of the achievements I went over at the beginning of the tutorial here, and 2 of the achievements that I could use right now is the first one with adding another trash can. So I could actually add another trash can, which would allow me to dump another answer, or I could click on the little die icon and I could get another dice that would roll, and I could have a re-roll and not have to even trash a number if I was really unhappy with the number that appeared or the luck didn't work out in my favor. So I'm not going to use any of those right now. I will talk about the hints and the instant solution in a second, because that'll come up when we actually have to solve the question. But for right now, I'm just going to tap on that metals button again and close my toolbox. And so now I get back to the question and I have to press roll again. So if I tap on roll, I'm now getting a number 4. So I'm going to choose where to pull that to. I'm going to drag that down and put it in with the multiplying, because I'd like to try to get a biggest number possible, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get bigger numbers at this point. I'll tap on roll again. I get a 3. Here's kind of a decision point. Do I think I can get something higher than 3 for the front of my equation? So for now I'm going to try to get something higher, so I'll drag this down into my trash can. If I tap on roll again one last time, I get a 5, which worked out nicely for me, so I can drag that into the front of my equation. And now you notice that the solve button appears because I'm done putting everything in, everything's locked in. So if I tap on solve, you'll notice a few things. The die obviously disappeared because I'm done selecting, as well as my trash can emptied because I don't want students to be distracted by that number. So I've emptied the trash can for them, and now they just need to solve the question for order of operations. Here I might try to do this in my head or get the answer. So I'm going to tap on that underneath the equals, that box, and I'm going to enter my solution of 35. And if I tap again, it will enter that answer. And if you notice here, I actually was wrong and it says try again. When I play different levels, in level 1 it's going to give me 3 options for answering the question. In level 2 it would give me 2, and then in level 3 only the 1 chance. So it kind of again depends on the level of the student, but in this case I'm on level 1, so I can try again. If I tap again, it will empty the answer box. And now I have a couple different options again. So I could click on that metals toolbar again, and if I do that, I have my toolbar. Here's where the hint or the instant solution comes into play, because if I tap on one of those H's that I've collected, it would give me a hint of what step to do next by either highlighting or circling that portion. Or if I click on the instant solution, if it's a really hard question or I'm at a critical point in the game, it would actually solve the question for me. So that's something that would be hard to achieve, but I actually have one of those icons now, so I could click on that and it would solve. But for now I'm going to close my toolbox by tapping back on that star metal icon. And then there is that other icon that you may have noticed, that's the pen icon again. And if I tap on that pen, it's going to bring up that whiteboard again. Now with the whiteboard, I could tap on the pen button and write out the solution. So I'm going to do that right now. And if you notice, I made a slight mistake when I'm writing it out here. I had 5 plus 16 is 23, minus 1 is 22. And so I noticed my solution, so I'm actually going to tap again on that eraser button. It will erase everything. And now I'll tap back on the pen and I'll rewrite my solution correctly, and I'll be able to solve it, because maybe the first time I was trying in my head and now I'm actually able to write it down and get the correct solution. So if I tap back on that pen, my whiteboard's going to disappear, and I'm back here and I can tap on my answer button and press the 20 into there and press enter. And when I do that and tap again, it's going to give me the correct answer, because now I've actually answered the question correctly. Now finally the round is over, so if I tap again, it's going to give me the summary for my part of the round. So you see I'm playing Susie Q222. And I've played the first round and I got 20 points because my score translates to points, and now I just have to wait for her to play. She's going to get the exact same die that I got, the same order of operations question, and then she'll be able to select what she wants to do, and then we'll see her score at the end. So now I'm just kind of waiting, and I could go back to the home screen and I could actually see what other games I could play or start another new game if I'd like. So that's my app. I hope you enjoyed it, and I was really excited to share that with you today.